Welcome to a special report from the Human Error News Network. I'm your host, and today, well, we're pulling back the curtain on the digital systems you probably trust the most. And honestly, what we're about to reveal regarding human performance is a little bit terrifying. Let me ask you something. What if the very machines meant to protect you are actually setting you up for the ultimate human failure? You know the drill. You upgrade to these highly automated, passive safety systems, thinking you're completely eliminating human error. But what if that automation isn't removing the risk at all? What if it's just silently compounding it right under your nose? If you manage any kind of complex operations, this is the reality that probably keeps you up at night. As our systems get smarter and way more autonomous, the cost of just a single human mistake, it becomes exponentially more catastrophic. The margin for error basically shrinks to absolute zero. But here's the secret that most people completely miss. The actual nature of that mistake has completely changed. If you're still training your team to handle yesterday's loud emergencies, you are leaving your entire operation incredibly vulnerable today. So before we really dive in, I want you to do a quick mental audit of your own workspace. Think about it. What is the one automated system you literally never double-check? Keep that in the back of your mind.
Look, we have all been there. It's just human nature, right? We fall into what we like to call the autopilot trap. When a system works perfectly, say 99% of the time, we just naturally start zoning out during the routine stuff. We blindly trust the computer's output without actually verifying it. And slowly but surely, we just completely lose our situational awareness. We really are in this together because as humans, our brains are literally hardwired to conserve energy when a machine is telling us, hey, everything is fine. But in high-stakes environments, that biological shortcut is a ticking time bomb.
So the crucial takeaway here is just how much the risk landscape has shifted. The old danger, it used to be active, hitting the wrong button or pulling the wrong lever during a loud flashing crisis. We call those post-initiator errors. But the new danger, it's entirely passive. These are pre-initiator errors. It's the silent mistakes made during setup or just failing to notice a degraded digital instrument during your routine monitoring. It's failing to realize that the safety system has already been compromised before the emergency even actually begins. Section 1, the automation paradox. So I've been reviewing the latest safety research coming out of highly automated nuclear reactors, and I really want you to let this number sink in for a second. 72 hours. New reactor designs, like small modular reactors, they're actually built to require absolutely zero operator action for 3 entire days following a major event. The computers and the physics just handle the whole shebang. But if the human isn't actively controlling the system, what exactly happens to their brain while they just sit there and watch? Well, the workload performance curve perfectly illustrates this exact problem. Think about it. On the high end of the curve, you see what happens when we're completely overloaded. Performance inevitably drops, right? We expect that. But look at the low end. When workload is way too low, when we are just passively monitoring these highly automated systems, we lose our vigilance. Overall performance just absolutely plummets. Extreme underload is literally just as dangerous as extreme overload. Section 2, detecting the silent failures. Okay, so how do we actually fix this? Let's build a tactical playbook together, starting with detection. Because here's the thing, digital automation doesn't always fail with a loud blaring alarm. Sometimes it literally just freezes. Based on operating experience from the nuclear industry, here are the steps we really need to implement. First, you've got to monitor for locked interfaces. In one crazy case study, an overhead alarm system locked up and critical alarms were lost for over an hour before anyone even noticed, simply because the screen just looked totally normal. Second, flag unvalidated data. Your system has to visually warn the operators if the data can't be confirmed. And third, use analytical redundancy. This basically means having the system calculate what the values should be based on models and then comparing them to what the sensors are actually reading. If they don't match up, boom, the human is alerted instantly. Section 3, preventing the vigilance threat. Now, detection is great, but it's not enough. We have to actively fight what's called the vigilance decrement. If you are just relying on your team to sit and stare at a screen waiting for something to go wrong, you are mathematically guaranteeing that they'll fail when it finally does. Why? Because of the 30-minute wall. Research spanning multiple industries, even centralized remote facilities for autonomous shipping, shows that prolonged passive monitoring over just 30 minutes severely reduces human attention. It vastly increases boredom. Pupilometry, that's tracking eye movements, actually proves that operators literally stop seeing critical information after just half an hour of underload. Crazy, right? So here is our prevention playbook. First things first, ditch the old fits list or the leftover approach. That's the old school method where you give the computer everything it's good at and just dump the boring leftover tasks on the human. That approach accommodates the limits of the machine, sure, but it completely ignores the limits of the human. Instead, we have to assign logical, coherent tasks that actually keep the operator actively in the loop. We must implement dynamic function allocation. That's adaptive automation that dynamically shifts the workload back to the human when things get a bit too quiet. It keeps their situational awareness razor sharp.
Section 4. Correcting the manual shift.
This all builds to arguably the most terrifying moment in any control room, that sudden, violent shift from automatic back to manual control. The automation has failed, you detected it, and now the human has to take over. What your operators will instantly experience in that exact moment is called out-of-the-loop unfamiliarity. Because they haven't been actively flying the plane, they have absolutely no idea what the wind speed is, where the horizon is, or what the automation was even doing right before it died. Their cognitive workload spikes from 0 to 100 in a split second.
To correct this, your emergency procedures cannot just simply say, take manual control. That is nowhere near enough. Your protocol has to mandate a rapid situation assessment first. Then, you absolutely must immediately redefine crew roles. Think about it. When automation drops, the entire concept of operations fundamentally changes. The team structure that worked beautifully 5 minutes ago, it just no longer applies. Roles must dynamically shift to compensate for that lost computer way before any manual recovery is actually executed.
Section 5. The remote control problem.
All right, take everything we've just discussed, the autopilot trap, those silent failures, the sudden manual shift, and I want you to imagine dealing with all of it from literally 1,000 miles away. The next big evolution of high-stakes operations is running multiple, incredibly complex facilities from a single remote control location. But when you move an operator off-site, you introduce a massive human-system communication gap. Physical distance strips away those direct sensory inputs, the sights, the sounds, the actual vibrations of the machinery. The operator's reality becomes entirely mediated by digital cues. If a network drops or a cyber event occurs, their situational awareness is just instantly severed. Operating remotely means communication loss is not an if, it is a when. And your team's defense in depth strategy absolutely must account for this latency and disconnection.
Section 6. Your human error roadmap.
Okay, we've covered a lot. The hidden dangers of modern automation, the science of workload, the escalating risks of remote operations. Now it's time to actually put this into practice and look critically at your own operations today. Here is your action plan. Tomorrow morning, I want you to audit your automated systems. Are you vulnerable to silent, locked interfaces? Next, run a drill. Force a manual handoff under stress, completely without warning, just to see how bad your team's out-of-the-loop unfamiliarity really is. Sit down and actually map your team's workload curves. Are you paying them to be dangerously bored? And finally, if you run any remote operations at all, structurally prepare for the exact moment your communications drop to 0.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, critical thought to evaluate within your own walls. When your automation goes completely silent and all the screens just freeze, will your team actually know how to fly the plane? This has been a special report from the Human Error News Network.